Today, we've got Zeke Elliott still likely to miss time in the regular season. We're going to talk about Jerry Jones and where that situation stands. We're going to touch on Melvin Gordon and where the Chargers are with their star running back, who is notoriously quiet as well. I bet you he's going to miss some time, but you don't see the Chargers going up there talking about it. Kareem Hunt and his injury, the Patriots making trades, as well as everything else going on in the world of sports. We've got a couple more topics today. We're glad you guys are here. Great show last time. Obviously, you can tell we're just back to the gruesome dewsome of me and Drew here. Drew, what are you most excited to talk about today, man?
Oh, man, of course, everything. Anytime I get to talk sports with you guys and Jake, it's an exciting time. And to be honest with you, man, I'm just so ready for regular season football. It's like not even funny. Nathan, what's going on, man? Ian, always good to see you. Frank, the same. Good to see you, man.
Happy Labor Day to everybody out there. Ian, thank you for pointing it out. You jumped me. I was going to say it at the end of the show, but I'll say it right now. Happy Labor Day, guys. Way to celebrate working by not working on Monday. I know I'm looking forward to it. I'm sure Drew is looking forward to it.
But you don't work on Monday?
No. I hate it for you, brother. But someone's got to be there for the people, so if you are working, thank you for that. If you're not, enjoy your time off. I'm a holiday guy. I love holidays. I love Labor Day. I love Memorial Day. Pick any random holiday, or pick any day of the year, make it a holiday, I'm all for it.
Do you like Canada Day?
Yeah, I'll celebrate it. Are they going to give me the day off of work? Why not Boxing Day?
I'll look at your calendar. I'll see if I can give it to you off.
Thanks, boss. Before we go into this, yes, Ian, I did forget to send you that link. Thank you for reminding me. I'm going to write it down right now, and then I'll forget later again. Ian Link. I have no idea what that means here in about 30 minutes.
Write jerk on there, you'll remember.
Perfect. We are also going to talk about Kareem Hunt and everything going on. Drew, I'm going to leave it to you, man. I usually pick the topic to start on. What would you like to talk about today to begin with?
Oh, we can talk Kareem Hunt. I'm perfectly fine with that. I mean, okay, so he knows he's going to be away from the Browns organization. He knows he can't be anywhere near it, can't communicate with them. So he goes off and gets a sports hernia surgery. Could be out longer than his actual suspension is. Is this the right move? Because if he could play week one, he'd be playing.
No. If you're going to be out for 8 weeks, and you maybe have to throw an extra week or two on there, because right now they're projecting he's going to be back in week 10, and that will be the likely starting point for Kareem Hunt this year because he had a hernia. You go and take this surgery right now. I mean, is there any better time than when you can't be with the team in their facilities? You can't work out with anyone. You can't even really game plan with the team. This is the perfect time to go chew up a suspension, right? Go have your surgery and come back fresh.
The reason why I kind of feel like it's not is because not only are you going to not be around the facility and learning the game plan and being with your teammates, you also need to stay in shape.
Right. So
this is during the season. He is not going to be able to work out. I mean, sports hernia surgery, kind of sits you down on your butt for a little while. I mean, this is, I know the guy's going to be in shape, but is he going to be in game time shape when it comes to when he can actually play? It's usually professional players decide to take this during the off season,
right? Because
then they can rehab and get themselves back into game playing shape.
Well, I guess it depends on how quick he recovers. There's a chance that, it takes 10 weeks for him to recover from the injury, and then he's got to go take another couple weeks to get back into anywhere near football shape. This could be an injury, and I also think this helps Nick Chubb out a lot. Let's talk about that standpoint. When you're going from the fantasy football aspect, we were way, way down on Nick Chubb, saying Kareem Hunt is likely to steal a lot of these carries towards the back half of the season. That looks less and less likely now. Did we get fooled into taking Kareem Hunt?
Yeah, we did.
I actually still think Kareem Hunt has some value.
And Jared McKinnon, too.
And Jared McKinnon. I know, it's 2 injuries already. We already got 2 guys headed to IR, likely. It's rough, man.
Sharif says, week 10, awesome that he got Nick Chubb, #watch out.
And it could be further than that. Like you said, if he's got to get back into shape, we could see Nick Chubb be the feature back for the first 12, 13. It could be the rest of the season.
It could be. Luckily, Sharif knows nothing about football, so let's trade him Kareem Hunt.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Perfect plan. Good thing we didn't just give that away. So if you're looking for Kareem Hunt, he is on the block. We're willing to trade him to you. I still think he has value, though. A little bit of value. If he comes back and he's strong and he takes a big chunk of that role, you're going to be getting this guy moving into the playoffs who is still pretty fresh. Hasn't had a season's worth of beating on him that some of these other running backs will. He's still a talented running back, or we believe he's a talented running back. This will be the first time we're seeing him outside of Kansas City's just dynamic offense.
Right.
But he has still top-tier potential. It just got a lot more risky, right?
Yeah, no.
There's the good chance that we just get like 0 points out of him and we wasted our, 9th, 10th, 11th round pick.
We'll see. I again will say that John Dorsey loves playing his guys. Kareem Hunt is a guy that he drafted in Kansas City. I think he will get a chance to play. The question is, what kind of shape he's in. I'm telling you, it's not good that he's doing it now, because when he gets a chance to play, he might as well just notch this whole season gone before he actually gets to full strength and going full speed ahead.
And Nathan, we love football too, man. We're glad you're here to talk it with us today. Also, a couple more here. Ian says he can't believe the Patriots are trading within the division. Why would any AFC East team help the Patriots and make trades with them? Because they're bad organizations. They're trying to cash out. We're going to talk about that next.
Yeah.
Since Ian brought it up here. The Bills are looking to cash out on someone like their center, Russell Bodine, after they went and spent all that money to bring in Mitch Morse from Kansas City. So they're saying, hey, we got this guy. We don't think he's worth very much. The Patriots are willing to give us a 6th-round pick. There's probably not a lot of other teams out there willing to give us a pick for a guy who might wind up cut anyway. So they're going to go try to get value out of their guy. The problem is, like you said, they're making a division rival better, especially if this guy hits free agency. There's a good chance that somebody else snaps him up before the Patriots do. Yeah. Because the Patriots like to pay that bottom dollar to anybody coming in. I think this is a bad move by Buffalo making any kind of trade with them. They should have just let it go.
Yeah, no, they should have. Shree says we're in a lot of trouble in fantasy. Waiver wire heroes, okay?
We're going to need it.
That's all I'm going to say. Frank says if he doesn't have the surgery, he can miss a lot more than 10 weeks. Actually, Frank, that's not 100% true, because he actually could have played week 1 and probably played all 16 weeks, all 16 games, and into the playoffs before he ever had to have surgery. And this is more of a pain stamina kind of situation than it is like stopping your body from performing. It actually is just a pain-causing situation. So he could have just outdone the pain, kind of just moved past it.
Just toughed it out.
It's painful. There's no doubt about it. It is. But, yeah, he wouldn't. I don't think he would have missed any time unless it was severe. But if it was severe, you'd be talking about emergency surgery. And if the doctors are saying, hey, you could play if you wanted to. And he chose not, obviously, because of his suspension. So.
Yeah, he's got 8 weeks to sit there and think about it. I think this will be fine. He'll come back. He'll bounce back quicker than expected because he's a young running back that, let's face it, even with the Chiefs, didn't exactly take a huge pounding with as much as they threw the ball. He's had some touches, but he's not one of those guys that's just, 8 yards up or 3 yards up the gut, 8 guys in the box stacking up, hitting you every play. I think Kareem Hunt will be fine. He'll be back on track by week 10. I think he'll be in shape for it too. Yeah, would I like to see him kind of tough it out a little bit? Maybe. This isn't great news for anyone who took him in fantasy, but I don't think this is game-breaking news just yet. It hurts him a little bit, and if you haven't drafted yet, consider this before you take him. But I still think there's value with Kareem Hunt, and I still think he's the more talented of the 2 running backs.
Scott says he's a utility running back. There's a lot to get right with him.
There is, but if you hit with it, this could be the kind of move that wins you a fantasy league, because he can be one of the best flex players out there. If you're getting Kareem Hunt, if you get like 2 or 3 of his weeks come playoff time that he had in Kansas City where he's ripping off those 60, 70-yard runs, that could be what turns a fantasy league for you.
Pass and catch, yeah.
Exactly.
I mean, he's definitely very, very utilized in that Kansas City offense. We imagine the Browns are going to try to do the exact same. Sharif goes, did you see what Houston offered Miami? Clowney and a first-round pick for Tunzel.
I hadn't heard the first-round pick, but I've also heard that Jadeveon Clowney still doesn't want to be traded to Miami. I think part of the problem was he didn't want to be traded to someone not considered a contender because they're going to want a long-term contract. He's already 26 or 27, so if you sign that 4 to 5 year deal, that could be it. I mean, that could be your only chance to win a Super Bowl. If you're Jadeveon Clowney, there's no way I'm signing a big contract unless I'm all about the money, because you're going to get the money from Miami. They got it to spend. They don't have a lot of talent on the roster. You can be one of the best players in the team, but you're probably not winning Super Bowls from Miami. Not in the span of your career. You've got 4 or 5 years now to find the right team and get it right. And I don't blame him for not wanting to sign that deal.
You don't believe in Rosen? The future that Rosen has in Miami Dolphins?
I don't believe in the rest of the roster. Even if Rosen pans out, and that's a big if, Drew, even if Rosen pans out, you can't bet on the rest of this team being good enough to compete with the Patriots and the Chiefs and the Steelers and now the Browns. I mean, a lot of these teams are set up for years to come. Some of them still have veterans to win in the short term. You're talking maybe a 3 to 4 year rebuild with the way it's gone in Miami. I know it's the NFL. I know things turn over quickly, but not when you play in Miami. I mean, if you're in the AFC East, nothing turns over quickly.
Yeah, no doubt about it. To be honest, I think that whole division's sitting there waiting until Tom Brady retires, and then you're talking about possibly making a run in the playoffs. Until then, you just have to take the back seat and wait it out.
I agree with you. Also, if it's a first-round pick, I'm Miami, let's say Clowney says, I'll sign that contract, I'm doing that in a heartbeat.
Oh, yeah.
You're getting a great pass rusher. You're getting a first-round pick. Laramie Tunsil did step up his play, but he had a slow start. There's no guarantee he doesn't regress a little bit. I would make that move in a heartbeat right now. Yes, I want to protect Josh Rosen, but I have Ryan Fitzpatrick who can take the beating in the meantime. Give me every high-level draft pick I can get right now as a team that's still trying to rebuild. That's the fastest way to do it.
No, absolutely it is. So Ian says, what do we think about Miami trading for Clowney? Miami offered too much, and Clowney doesn't want to go to Miami. I don't think Miami offered too much. Is Tunzel too much?
No, definitely not. If you get Clowney playing, this is fantastic, especially on a team that has the money to burn. This is the kind of guy you want to have on this defense, right? We're talking about this budding secondary. Now all of a sudden you got Jadeveon Clowney, who, even though he's like an 8 or a 9 sack guy kind of year, or a year kind of guy, he's also the guy that can set the edge and shut down one side of the field. So you're getting a very valuable defensive end, maybe not quite as valuable as the guy that can put up 15 sacks or 12 or 13, but you're still getting one of the top-level defensive ends in the game. You put him on that side, you take that first-round pick and turn it into another good defensive lineman, all of a sudden this defense looks scary, and you have an identity again. Right. Especially with Brian Flores as your head coach, you have an identity for a team that's been missing it for forever, right?
Right. I mean, when I look at Clowney, I think obviously he did not pan out to be that number 1 overall pick like Houston wanted him to be, and like the rest of the NFL probably thought he was going to be. But this is a solid all-around player. You know, those double-digit sacks could possibly still be in his future, but you would think if he couldn't do it with the Texans, I don't know where he possibly could. Ian says, or Sharif and Ian are saying Clowney to the Rams, and Ian saying Chargers for Gordon, switching it up.
The Rams don't have the money. The Chargers trading it. I don't see the Chargers making the move for Clowney because they're already looking at Melvin Ingram and Joey Bosa. At their defensive end spot, so they already have that covered. Unless they just want to have 3 of the best rotational guys in football, or find some way to run a 3 defensive end set, which is incredibly unlikely. Maybe you could say Joey Bosa could be a really small D tackle if you shift him inside.
It happens, but it's not an everyday set up on the defensive line.
They could have 3 of the best. I don't see it. I really don't. It would be a great move. Maybe Dallas would do it. That, to me, you put him out there with some of those great linebackers, I think that would be the fantastic move for Dallas if you're going to trade Zeke Elliott, especially because you're talking about Zeke wanting $13, $14, $15 million. I don't know that Houston has that money to make that happen. Same thing with Melvin Gordon. I think that's going to slow down that trade as well. It wouldn't be the worst.
Yeah.
As for the Rams, like Sharif was asking about, I don't think the Rams are a good fit because they're broke. They've spent so much money on everybody. They don't have the $100 million contract Jadeveon Clowney's going to be looking for. I think the Rams are like one of the last teams who are going to be able to afford him.
Edward said trade him to the Steelers, and he also said Tennessee should try to go get him for sure.
It won't happen because it's in division. I think Tennessee is the match made in heaven if these teams were AFC and NFC, because Tennessee has 3 great tackles that they seem to like, or Taylor Lewan, who's a great tackle, and then they have 2 guys who are pretty good behind him, in Jack Conklin and Dennis Kelly, who they picked up from the Eagles not too long ago. They have a lot of talent at tackle, but and a whole defensive end. So this makes sense on paper. But the Titans, because they're a good organization, aren't going to go make a division rival better, especially when they're hurting like this, right?
Nah.
The Titans, even though they'll never admit this, want Deshaun Watson to take as many hits as humanly possible right now in his career, because they don't want to have to face this guy for the next 15 years at the top of his game.
Yeah, Scott says the Texans want an arm and a leg for him. Is he worth an arm and a leg?
He's like just shy. He's kind of like Frank Clark for me, where I'm kind of like hesitant that a team is going to go give him like the moon. They're going to go give him the max contract basically to play defensive end. But he's a great run defender, and that can't be undersold. He's a guy that can shut the edge down. He's going to give you 8 or 9 sacks.
He's a well-rounded player.
Exactly. He's going to give you 8 or 9 sacks a year. Maybe you have a great year where he gives you 10 or 11, but he's not going to be like the best pass rusher in the NFL. And in today's NFL, those are the guys who have value because everybody wants to throw so much.
Yeah, no doubt about it. Sharif's got a great point. He said the Texans are in trouble without a GM. Do you think a lot of this issue is because of the lack of leadership in that GM position?
Well, I think it
started prior,
right.
But obviously there was some kind of disconnect between ownership, GM, and team level management. I mean, there's obviously some kind of disconnect there. But now that there is no GM, is there even a chance to even get a good, decent deal for Clowney? I mean, because these guys...
I think they already got ripped off for Duke Johnson.
Exactly. That's what I'm getting at. And these guys have a tight-knit group, and they know how to wheel and deal. And when you don't have someone that's in there doing it day in and day out, you're going to see exactly like Duke Johnson's scenario.
One more team I want to talk about, and then I'll talk about what you were talking about. The Steelers, I think that would be a good pick. That would be a great guy to put across from TJ Watt. Have people run towards that side because he's shutting down the run, and then you could slant your linebackers that they can go take away TJ's side of the field every time they need to. Not that TJ's a slouch in the running game either. We've seen him be relatively effective, but he's more of a pass rusher. I think that'd be fantastic. We could be going back to the Steel Curtain days if they can go put guys like TJ Watt and Jadeveon Clowney at defensive end. That would be perfect.
Right, yeah, no doubt about it. That would be
the question is, what would you give up? And can the Steelers afford to give up that much money? I don't think they have the money for it, but you never know. They got 2 big contracts off the books with Antonio Brown moving on and Le'Veon Bell. Maybe they find a way to make it work.
It's a possibility.
As to what you asked,
and
I don't even remember what it was.
Shreve brought up, the Texans are in trouble without a GM.
I think that would definitely make things harder. I think that's why they overpaid a little bit for Duke Johnson, especially before everybody got cut. You're going to see some running backs out there that have some marginal utility. Hindsight, it worked out, right? They needed the running back with Lamar Miller going down. They probably could have waited it out or offered like a really low-round pick for someone like a Gus Edwards that's kind of on the bubble a little bit. Or there are other running backs who are going to be out there who are going to be cut here in the next day or two.
Carlos Hyde.
That you're going to have an opportunity to go after.
And they'll pick one of them up.
They should. Yeah, they absolutely should now.
Will.
But even if you trade for Duke Johnson, I'd say probably still consider it. As for whether they're going to be in trouble without a GM, it's not a good move. But I think they've already avoided the big-time mistake of just paying him, right? Because it could be nobody's fault if they would have just given Jadeveon Clowney too much money. I think this is the right move in the grand scheme of things to not give Jadeveon Clowney a $100 million contract for a guy who can't get that 12, 13, 14 sacks and constantly pressure the quarterback, because that's what has the most value in today's NFL. Run stopping is great, especially at defensive end. It's great. It's a commodity, but it's not something that you go and overpay a guy for, because eventually J.J. Watt's going to be gone. Eventually you're going to lose out on some of these linebackers there as well. You can't go and give this guy this max contract and have him be the guy. If you're going to give him that kind of money, he's got to be the guy.
Well, and I think he would have already got the money if he was that guy. I mean, I'll say it again. If he has not reached those double-digit sacks, he might, but I highly doubt he can, especially when he's been playing in a defense like the Texans, who have been a solid defense. You obviously have a lot of attention on J.J. Watt on the other side, Merciless and Cushing, and all those guys that used to be there are still there. I mean, he should have already succeeded, and he hasn't yet. So I think that's why...
He's had success. He struggled early. He had like 2 bad years with injuries.
Overall pick.
No, but that's where I'm getting a tough thing to live up to.
That's where I'm giving. That's what I'm talking about.
All I'm saying is that is water under the bridge. You can't bemoan where he was taken. Sure, we saw him lay the hit on the Michigan running back forever ago, and we're like, man, this guy's going to be the best defensive end ever played. He hasn't lived up to that hype, right? Definitely not. But for what you've gotten, you have a top, what do you want to call it, 12, 15 defensive end in the NFL at worst. You've still got an amazing player here. Let's not sell him short. He's still very, very good. The problem is he's not elite.
They obviously franchise tag him because they don't want him to go anywhere.
Right. And again, that's okay for 1 year. You can give him that money when you have that money, but you don't want to commit years forward when you have a young quarterback like Deshaun Watson who's looking great.
Yeah.
Because eventually you're going to need to sign a few weapons, or you're going to need to sign some offensive linemen. This year, if he takes another beating, guess what I'm doing as a team? I'm going out there and saying, we're going to take the best tackle and maybe the best interior offensive lineman as well, because this can't happen. You give Clowney that money, that's off the table.
Yeah, no doubt about it. Austin said he reportedly wants to play in Philly or Seattle, and Edward says, what team needs him? And what team would he fit in? Of course, Shreve answers a lot, but is there a team out there? I know you said the
Tennessee,
the Titans.
we could use them.
But is there another one besides the Titans that you could see that really could use it? Let's say, let me change it up. Not only a team that needs him, has the assets to trade for him, and has the money to sign him. Is there a team out there
and has the right fit to make it where he'd want to sign with you? Because again, the Dolphins could use him, Tampa Bay could use him. There are some teams out there that could definitely use him.
Right.
To fit everything that you just mentioned, that has the money, that has the perfect situation where you're at least going to be a threat. Ooh, that's a tough one. Maybe Green Bay, if they saved enough money with Mike Daniels. But I don't think Green Bay's going to make this move. I think Green Bay kind of panicked when it got released that they made like $70,000 profit for $1 billion organization last year. I don't think Green Bay's going to be looking to spend too much money. I think they have it under the cap, but I don't think financially it makes sense for them to make this move. Let me keep thinking. The Giants, if you believe in whatever they've got going on in offense. But again, I think they're in the spot where they're not going to win. The Redskins could use a defensive end, but they're still far off with their quarterback. I'm running through the list here, Drew. I'm not really seeing that perfect scenario. There is maybe Seattle. Philadelphia already has a great defensive line. I think you'd fill in really well there. I think Seattle might be the closest you're going to get to, we need this defensive end, because Ziggy Ansah probably isn't the answer.
Right.
And Frank Clark is gone.
You don't think there's going to be an uproar if you sit there and trade for Clowney and you just let Frank Clark walk out of there? And
what do I get Clowney for? If they overpay for Clowney, like if they give up a first-round pick to go get Clowney, yeah, there's going to be an uproar. But what if it's like a third or a fourth, and you let Frank Clark go and you get a comparable guy?
Then they'd probably be cheering.
Exactly. That's what I would do. I think Seattle is the best fit. And again, I think the reason that Clowney is interested in those teams is because he wants to win. You're talking about Seattle that won 9 or 10 games last year and was a threat in the playoffs. They look good, even though they didn't win. They look pretty good all the way up to the end. You have Russell Wilson, who's still one of the best quarterbacks. He wants to play for a team that can win him a Super Bowl. And I give him credit for that. There's not a lot of guys out there that wouldn't just take the money and run and go off to Miami and stink.
Right.
Like he could have been Nakamada Sue. This could have been the exact same story, where the team doesn't want to pay you or can't afford to pay you and chooses not to. Well, Tampa's broke. Tampa doesn't have any talent, and they're still broke. Don't ask me how that works.
What's going on, Ivy? She says, how long do you think the Cowboys will take before giving Zeke a contract, or even if they do?
I think it's going to be 3, 4, 5 weeks before somebody breaks. And maybe we see a shorter-term deal, like a 2 or a 3-year deal for mega money, where they're giving him $15, $18 million a year to get him back on the field. I think Jerry Jones has done a good job of not blinking so far, but look at it from Jerry Jones' perspective. This is a 77-year-old man, I think. He's like mid-70s, going towards the late 70s. He's looking at it like our playoff window, our Super Bowl window is open right now. If something happens, I can't guarantee that I'm going to be around to guide this team to a Super Bowl. I want to win while I'm alive.
Healthy.
Who's that?
No, you be around healthy to watch this team win a Super Bowl.
He's 77, Drew. I think.
I get it.
76?
He's also a billionaire. He'll live to 110.
Is that how it works?
He just won't think right.
I don't know. Again, if you're
His
Jerry...
money will keep him alive. You don't know about that?
Well, it helped Bud Adams, I guess. But when you're talking about Jerry Jones, it could happen to you at any time. And I think that's the way he's looking at it. Like, we're good right now. I need to find a way to make this work because the window is open. The worst case scenario is we go into a rebuild mode, right? And you lose out on the quarterback. You lose out on Zeke. Even though we have the defense secured, I think he's scared to death that the team is going to fall apart and then he's going to miss his chance to win another Super Bowl while he's alive.
I don't know if I could sit there and say it would go back into full rebuild mode. If they can get Dak signed and they have Cooper signed and then they're searching for that running back piece, that's not a rebuild. It's just a matter of finding a
when
player.
It's the star of your team, though, that can be a rebuild, and we're saying you can get another running back, but it's tough when it's your team.
But if we're talking about this season, and if we're talking about the season after that, your best chances to win a Super Bowl is with number 21 in your lineup.
Absolutely,
no doubt about it.
And that's his whole point. He's saying, I've got more money than I could ever want. I've got this team that's now working. It's just a shame that I can't go throw the money at this problem and make it go away. But that's the way the NFL works, and that's why it's a competitive league. He has to figure out the best way to smooth this over with both Dak and Zeke if he wants to keep the status quo going.
Edward says he has Jerry Jones has about 5 new lungs in his house and 3 new hearts as well.
When you're that age, you're going to need them. you probably could go stack up on a couple more. But, hey, you never know when it's going to happen to you. The heart can go give out on you at any point in time. I'm with you. Money can solve a lot of those problems, but nobody lives forever. And Jerry Jones is probably looking at it like, man, the Cowboys have struggled for so long, and now we have this opportunity. Imagine being in that situation, that you've struggled for as long as you have, and now everything's starting to come together, and everyone says, I want to get paid. I'm not trying to win. I want to get paid.
Sharif said they already offered Zeke a $13 million plus contract a year and said no. Ian said the Cowboys' record decides when Zeke.
When do I get paid,
now I can't
Drew?
talk. Zeke gets signed. Well, not for a long time.
Yeah, I know. I'm with you. I'm 100% with you there. I think, again, Zeke, with that going back to Sharif's comment, with a $13 million on the board, I get it. You're the second highest paid running back at that point, and everyone wants to be the first. But I think this is going to be the team that wound up being too greedy for its own good. I really do. I love where the defense is at. I love that they got all those guys under contract first because they're going to be good on defense now.
And they're young.
Going forward, exactly. They're going to have the defense together for a long time, and I like that. You just need to put a little bit of an offense around them, and we're off to the races. I would almost not be afraid to press the reset button. You have the defense. All I need to do is hit on them. Go trade Zeke. Go get a first round out of him if you can. Go snooker someone for a first round pick like Tampa, like Miami. go ship him off, and then make next year or the year after that.
Texans.
Yeah, exactly. What would the Texans give you right now for Zeke Elliott if they could afford to sign him?
I would think quite a lot.
Exactly. Maybe you go, well, like I said, maybe Clowney is the right fit here. You go give your big money problem to another team that's having a big money problem. The problem is neither of these teams have the money to give them.
There's always a way of making
you
it
can
happen.
finagle, but there is this tap.
There's always room.
If
you can restructure other contracts, push money back, give bonuses, and then you kind of spread it out.
If you're a bad team, sure, but then usually after that, the team explodes.
But I was just about to say,
everybody leaves.
I was just about to say, but the Houston Texans don't have a GM, so it doesn't matter.
I was going to say, usually if you're a bad team, you try to make that happen, and then the team explodes and all your talent leaves, and then you start the 4 to 6 year rebuilding cycle that can take sometimes if you don't know what you're doing. I give Jerry Jones credit here. He has been incredibly judicious with the money because the easy thing would be to say, I'm just going to pay everybody, right? I'm just going to throw as much money at this as I can, and then we're going to take a year or two, win a Super Bowl, and then when that doesn't work out, the team falls apart.
Chris says, how do we feel about the Colts?
They just went from like 10 or 11 wins to about 5 or 6. I hate it for them, but Andrew Luck is the engine of that team. If it's a car, you're missing the engine. I like Jacoby Brissett as a backup. He could even be like a fringe starter kind of player that's going to give you a little bit of value coming into play, but you can't tell me that you're going to win 10 games with Jacoby Brissett, even in that division where the Texans look tough. The Titans might be tough if they can figure things out on the offensive side of the ball. Jacksonville looks like they're due to rebound. Not to mention, you were second in the division, so you have to play a really tough schedule in the AFC. You get the Chargers, I believe. You get, even though it's, what is it? Is it the Dolphins there? Because they won 7. And then who won for the North? You get, what is that? The Steelers.
Steelers.
Right? The Steelers were second last year. You got a tough schedule here. And then you're missing the guy who's made the team tick. I don't think Indianapolis is a great team, per se. You're not a great roster. You have some great players. Guys like Darius Leonard, Malik Hooker, I think is a fantastic player. But I think you're still missing at a lot of spots, especially in the defensive line. You're gambling on someone like Justin Houston coming in and dominating like we haven't seen him do in a couple of years. This is a team that does not have the roster to be good without an elite quarterback. But when they had the elite quarterback, they had what it takes to maybe win a Super Bowl.
Yeah, I'm right there with you. I also see about 6 wins as well. And you got to remember, this team is not built around Brissett's style of play. His talent is sit around Andrew Luck's. And there's not a lot of quarterbacks out there that can play like Andrew Luck can. So when you talk about Jacoby coming in there and all these new weapons and the scheme that's put around it, it's all changed up when Jacoby steps on that field as the week 1 through 16 starter.
Now, Scott says he would make Zeke Elliott, going back to him, he would make him sit and honor the contract, and Jerry is playing for real. Look, it's very, very difficult because, again, what if this is the year you're going to win? And that goes out the window because Zeke misses the first 6 games because he doesn't want to play in that contract. Because you miss a couple games in the NFL, that can be the difference between making the playoffs and missing them, especially when you're looking at another juggernaut like the Eagles. Like if it's the Patriots and you're missing your star wide receiver, you're missing your star running back, short of anyone not named Tom Brady, you're going to say we can survive. But there's not a lot of divisions like that in football. There's usually 2 teams that are legitimate threats to win.
Yeah. Jeremy's staying with the Cowboys. He says, let's see how our run game is the first few games, and if we win, Zeke should reconsider that $13 million.
Now, Nathan is also saying Dallas goes 6-10 without Zeke. I will say this. I think they're better than that. I think we're kind of overlooking Dallas's defense and how good that unit actually is. They still have Amari Cooper. Dak Prescott still seems like he's going to play, so there should be a little bit going on through the air. If the offensive line steps back up a little bit, we see them play better than they did in 2018. We see more of that 2017 or 2016 Cowboys offensive line. We could be talking about the Cowboys still winning 8, 9, 10 games, in my opinion. It gets harder, but it can still be done. There are teams that can go win with just a defense and a little bit of offense.
Yeah, no doubt. Sharif says, could the Colts tank for a quarterback in next year's draft?
How much do you love Justin Herbert? They did it for Andrew Luck. And the thing is, it worked out with Andrew Luck. I know you're retired early, but that's hindsight. Hindsight's always 20/20. Andrew Luck, coming out of college, was absolutely fantastic. He looked great, and then he turned out to be great when he got to the pros. The real question is, how good is Justin Herbert or anyone else? Is it Jake Fromm this year? Is it Tua Tagovailoa? It's not in my opinion. I don't think Tua is that good. I think Fromm is like a marginal player that will probably be good and maybe has some upside. He's kind of like a Josh Rosen or maybe even Sam Darnold at his best. I think it's Justin Herbert or bust, and I haven't seen Justin Herbert play that well that I'm like, yeah, like it's worth tanking the season to go out and get him. That would be my luck, though, right?
People lose jobs when they tank. I don't care if you go to the GM and owner and say, hey, let's do terrible.
Unless the owner's in on it.
No.
Well, it happened last time.
No.
That was all Irsay's move when he said, hey, Luck is out there. We're getting rid of Peyton Manning. Do you think any owner in the NFL is okay starting Curtis Painter?
They were.
No. Well, yes, exactly, because the owner was bought in. But if you were trying to win or tanking was not okay with you, you'd go get a veteran quarterback. You'd go get somebody else. They went with Curtis Painter because they were tanking. The Colts are not above tanking. We've seen them do it in the past, and that would be my luck that they go from Peyton Manning, Andrew Luck, and then Justin Herbert's like the next top 5 quarterback in the NFL, and they get to be in my division. But again, they're not going to do it. I don't think Justin Herbert's the same level of talent that we saw Andrew Luck be, because I don't think anyone doubted it was like RG3 and Andrew Luck, and they're like, these guys could be transformative both at Baylor and Stanford beforehand. Herbert looks good. He looks like a number 1 pick.
Yeah.
I don't know that anyone's looking at Justin Herbert and saying this guy's going to transform the way we play football.
Nathan says that Dallas is going to be 6-10 without Zeke. And Jeremy said, no, that's like saying the Rams are going to be 6-10 without Todd Gurley. Let's just say both of them. What do the Rams and the Cowboys look like without their top running back?
Well, the Rams look a lot better because they throw so well. And the Cowboys did have success with Amari Cooper, but it's always tough putting all your eggs in one basket and saying Amari Cooper is going to be the same guy week in and week out when teams are game planning and trying to stop just him. Things get a lot more difficult. But if you get a little bit of offense out of him, maybe you see a little bit out of Randall Cobb, and the defense keeps playing as well as we think it can, they're going to be a competitive team. They're going to win 8 or 9 games. The question is that going to be good enough? It's nice that 2 other teams in the division don't look very good right now, right?
Yeah.
The Redskins and the Giants.
I don't think it gets you in the playoffs.
I think it gets you close. I think you're probably a fringe team. You need to have like a couple breaks go your way, and you can get in still.
I don't think so. I see like the Chargers. I see like maybe, the all of the South besides the Colts now. Pretty much they're going to probably be a little bit more than that. I could be wrong. In my opinion, well, I'm sorry, I'm on the wrong side of the conference. I'm thinking AFC. Yeah, I don't know. I don't think so, man. I don't think any 9-17 this year will make the playoffs. Maybe that's a crazy, bold statement, but I think it's very much a possibility. These teams are talented out there, and those top tier teams.
That's why I think it might be. That's why I think it might be a 9-17 because there's so much talent. Teams are going to lose some of these games. You're going to have to go toe-to-toe with guys. I think usually
there is still weak divisions. There is still weak games. I don't know, man.
I think 9 can get you in, perhaps. And again, maybe that 9-7 turns into 10-6 because you get something go your way. But you don't want to be the team that's relying on luck to get in.
He says you need 10 wins in the AFC to make the playoffs.
Normally, sure, but football's a weird game, right? Look at all this talent in the AFC. That could all fall apart. 3 weeks from now, we'd be talking about.
Remember when the Bears had 10 wins and didn't make the playoffs, and then
remember when the Patriots had 11 and didn't make it? I know it can happen, but remember when the Seahawks had 7 and they got in?
Right.
I'm just saying football is such a game that has so much parity in it that you can't bet on anything. 9 could be good this year. 9 could be bad this year. Even though we've seen some of these teams rise up, that could all stop on a dime, and we could just revert right back to 8 or 9 wins being good enough.
I don't know.
Tough. It's tough to predict. It's 100% tough to predict.
I mean,
I'm ready for round 2. I don't know about you.
Of course, every team fails. That there will definitely be a 9-7 division winner, 9-7 playoff or a wild card spot. It will definitely change it. Who knows, man? That's why I love football. Because you sit there and you think about all those times where like the Bears didn't make it with 10 wins, the Patriots didn't make it with 11 wins. That's what makes football so great. And it's any time that you look at a team losing one of their best players, what could happen with it? Like the Colts, Zeke not being there, Melvin Gordon, which is was one of their better players, not their best player by any means. Those come into effect, and you're talking 1, 2, 3 games that you're talking about a win or loss scenario. Your team could be out of the playoffs.
Let me hit Chris's comment here. He says Amari Cooper wasn't talked about until he went to Dallas. That's not true, Chris. Remember, this was a 2-time Pro Bowler his first 2 years in the league, and then he had a couple-year backslide when the rest of Oakland fell absolutely apart. I don't think you can 100% say he wasn't talked about. They did a good job stealing a very talented guy who looked bad when the rest of the team got bad. Yeah. as to the rest of this, he says Jalen Smith is very talented, but he doesn't think he's worth $64 million. And then Zeke, who carries that offense, isn't really getting paid, and all these guys had years left that he's saying he would hold out to. The difference is a linebacker can give you 10 years. You're probably not going to get 10 years out of Zeke Elliott. You may not get 5. I think the average running back, and this counts to a lot of people that don't make it very far, but the average running back career is only like 2.5 years in the NFL. You could take one bad hit with Zeke Elliott and you're gone. A linebacker, you take that bad hit and you can probably rehab and come back and still have some effectiveness. I think Jalen Smith is definitely the safer guy to pay. He's the guy that probably will have a bigger impact on you. And let me say this. There's marginal value at running back. And let me explain what I mean by that. Let's look at the Chiefs last year, right? When Kareem Hunt had his domestic violence issue come out and we lost him, everyone said, you know what? The Chiefs are done, right? They're losing one of their top players. Then we saw Damian Williams come in and for 1/10 of the money put up 80% of the same efficiency, 80% of the same numbers. The problem at running back is there are so many guys that if you're doing the right thing as a team that can have success, it's not worth paying guys who are just somewhat better than them. Even though Zeke's a great player and he's a great talent, why give him $13 million when you can go pay someone $2 million, put a great offensive line in front of him, throw it a little bit, and you're going to get 80% of his production? That was a lot. Sorry, Chris. I wasn't trying to go in on you. I'm just saying running back is the reason running backs don't get paid is because there are so many guys who can get very close to what your star running backs can get.
Yeah, I mean, I'm there with you. Of course, we're talking about one of the best in Zeke, and that's going to be hard to replace. There's no doubt about it.
What were you saying about Kareem Hunt when he was playing with the Chiefs? He was top 5.
That went my Super Bowl when
exactly.
He's gone.
Well, potentially. But
that year.
And maybe that is. But you can't tell me Damian Williams didn't do bad with his, 4.8 yards a carry?
He did well.
Yeah, exactly.
He did well. The only thing, Chris, is I disagree. Jalen Smith is every bit worth that money, man. Every bit. And it's a team-friendly contract, and you got a stud of a linebacker who is no problems, works hard, constantly out there, a team player. Man, you give someone like that money to stay in your organization. It was a great move.
But where Chris is right is where he's saying that the Rams literally are way more than just their running back, and the Cowboys rely heavily on the running game. You are right in that aspect. Part of that's because of talent. Part of it's because of scheme. If the Cowboys could go hire a head coach that could spread things out like Sean McVay, that could change too. Especially with this defense. If you could bring in a great offensive mind instead of running with Jason Garrett, we can see the Cowboys have huge success, but I think that also means replacing Dak Prescott and not giving a guy who's only a marginal talent top-level money. We talk about this a lot.
Nathan says Zeke is only considered the best because of his offensive line. Put him anywhere else with a mediocre offensive line, and he does nothing guaranteed.
I'm not going to say nothing. I think he's a very good running back. But, yes, running is a team sport. Not so much passing. Passing is about individual effort. You need a quarterback and you need a receiver and like half of an offensive line that can give you like 2.5 to 3 seconds, and you can make it work in the passing game.
That's the Buccaneers.
Running, everybody needs to play really well, and it can all be on the offensive line. You can get something out of nothing, like Adrian Peterson for some of those years up there in Minnesota, where their offensive line wasn't very good, but Adrian Peterson was still having a lot of success. It's a team sport. Zeke would still be a good player somewhere else, but having a great offensive line in front of him makes him that much better. And Todd Gurley has benefited from it too. Remember we were talking about Todd Gurley not being worth the pick his first year because he was playing in that Jeff Fisher offense and the offensive line wasn't there because they didn't have Whitworth. I don't think they had Saffold. They didn't have a lot of talent on the offensive line. We were talking about Gurley might be a bust of a pick. And now we're talking about Gurley's, the best running back in football or top 3, and we just overworked him? Yeah. Running's a team sport. It absolutely is. Running is something that you need to have 6 guys, really 11, 10 if you count the quarterback. You need to have, or if you don't count the quarterback, all working together and all making their blocks and all making it happen. If it doesn't work, everyone's going to struggle. That's why it's so easy to replace one guy in that, and so difficult to replace. I wasn't ready to talk. And so difficult to replace a receiver that can go beat someone man-to-man.
I was just trying to get all of it put together in my head. I agree with you, and then I don't. And I think great running backs succeed regardless of what the other players are doing. Now, will they find as much success as other ones that have a great offensive line? No. But you got to think that offensive line most of the time really is that one block. So you're talking 4, possibly 5 players of the offensive line blocks. After that, there's the rest of the team right there. There's 6, 7 players. Now you're throwing in the tight end, you're throwing in the wide receivers, but guess what? Holding is a penalty. They can't sit there and hold the guys. Blocking, you're talking about a few seconds onto that player, and then you push them off. It's about speed, agility, the way to break tackles, the way to break your direction and turn properly, the way to bend and turn your body. It takes a lot more than just a great offensive line. And Zeke is just one of those players that you could put behind a lower quality offensive line and still watch him succeed. Now, could you put like Damian Williams behind a lower tier offensive line and watch him succeed? He has yet to prove it. But I'm sorry, Zeke, in my opinion, has proved that he could play in any offensive line. Will you get the production he's getting out of Dallas? No, because that offensive line is better. But you cannot sit there and say that he's not going to be a great running back somewhere else.
I think the best example is Leonard Fournette. I think Leonard Fournette, if you swapped him and Zeke right now, they'd probably have similar numbers that the other guy has. If you put Leonard Fournette and put him in Dallas, he might look like one of the best running backs in football because he's talented. You're putting him in a system that's committed to the run, that is committed to blocking for the run, and has the offensive line to do it. And then Jacksonville's the reverse of that. The offensive line stinks. They're not very good. They haven't been very good, even though they spent on it. And they've struggled for years, year in and year out. I think if you put Zeke there, you would see some yardage. You'd see some of the plays where you're like, okay, this guy's got some talent, but everyone would be talking about how he's not as good as advertised. I think that is the biggest part of the running game, and that's why teams don't want to pay running backs because they're one piece out of the 6, 7, 8 pieces it takes to be good at running the ball. Whereas a receiver, a quarterback, it takes 2 guys, right? It takes 2 guys. Even if your offensive line is terrible, you can go run some West Coast principles, get the ball out of the quarterback's hands. As long as you put it where the guy needs to catch it and he can generate the space, you can have an offense with just 2 guys. A la T.Y. Hilton and Andrew Luck for all those years that offensive line stunk in Indianapolis.
Scott, I am sure about Zeke, even though he had a good offensive line, like you said, in Ohio State. I do. I honestly do think that. I don't think it's a fake that he's doing well just because of an offensive line. But I do have to disagree with you here, Scott. Scott says running back is the only spot you can hide less talent than any other positions.
Yes.
I completely disagree with that, and I know there's a lot of professionals that agree with me. The 2 on each side, they say offensive guard and a middle linebacker are the 2 spots where you could sit there and have an average player and still have a great system around them. Those are the 2 spots, and I am not alone on that. There's a lot of experts that say that.
Offensive guard, if you're the weak sister, you can get away with it. Like, meaning you have the center who's good next to you and you have the tackle who's good next to you.
Yeah, you're talking about an average player.
If that's the case, sure, you can hide it. But, again, you put one other, like, marginal player next to him, like a center that's, like, just okay, and then you put the bad guard next to him, you look like the Titans last year where they get dominated.
Now you're talking about – I'm not talking about
you can hide
I'm not talking about pieces. I'm talking about one piece.
Well, I'm kind of with Scott here. I think you can hide it at running back. I think the Chiefs did last year with Damian Williams. I don't think Damian Williams is like a fantastic player.
I think he's a good player.
I don't know that Spencer Ware was a fantastic player. I don't. It's one of those guys that, again, because the offense was opened up, that they can succeed.
That being said, Spencer Ware wasn't, leading the league in rushing.
No. But we talked about Spencer Ware being a great running back for Kansas City
because
for a couple
he's in
years.
a great system.
Precisely. And that's what you can do.
But you're
what you can
but
get
you're
away
going to
with.
sit there and tell me if you put Zeke in the Kansas City system that Zeke isn't, again, another number 1
No,
running back in the
I didn't
league?
say that. No,
My point here is we're talking about one position, one player, and where you can hide the less talented guy. The positions are as guard and middle linebacker. Look it up. A lot of coaches say that.
I'm not disagreeing. Middle linebacker maybe, because especially if he's supposed to be the quarterback and the leader of the defense. Again, it's just maybe if the rest of the defense is super stacked, you're fine.
He doesn't have to be.
If you have 10 other great defensive players, sure. But, I don't know. Let me take that back, too. There's a lot of years where the Titans had someone like Stephen Tulloch and Avery Williamson who couldn't guard the pass, and guess how you beat him? You throw it to the tight end right over the middle. So, I don't know that I 100% agree with that. On the run, sure, I agree. In the passing game, that can be really tough when you're trying to run cover 2. Also, to your point, running back can 100% be hidden. I think the Chiefs did it last year. I think Damian Williams on any other team is like, the 3rd player, probably. And yet he looked like a great player because the rest of the team and the scheme and the offensive line was really good for him. You can do and put enough around a running back to hide how good he is. Then, on the reverse, if you have a great running back, he can make up for some lackluster linemen to a point Look at Leonard Fournette in Jacksonville. They've struggled, but yet they've still been a running team, still been a team that tries to get something out of him. And people still believe Leonard Fournette's a good running back, even though he hasn't had, on paper, the same success as guys like Zeke and Todd Gurley.
Scott says, see the Pats every year. Then again, I think you're talking about a system that's making these guys good, but you're going to sit there and tell me Sony Michel's not a great player? James White is not a good player? No, they're good. They would be good anywhere.
Still waiting to see it out of Deion Lewis. Remember, we were talking about him the same way.
They'll be good anywhere else. Well, he went to the Titans, so he's
well, we run the ball, Drew. He should be fine here, right?
It's not the same.
Obviously not. But again, I'm with Scott on this one. I am.
That's
I think
fine.
he's 100% right.
Scott's wrong.
The only point I will make, Scott, is he's saying that Le'Veon Bell is not very important to the Steelers. In his comment, I do think you can elevate the running game if you have an overly talented guy at running back. But do I think you can make a running game by just having a great running back? No, not 100%. It's a team running, or it's a team position that you need to do to run the ball.
Shrey says, "How about James Conner?"
How about James Conner?
That's what he says.
Same thing. How talented is James Conner? Is it because they throw the ball a lot and everyone's worried about Big Ben throwing?
I mean, it's talent all in the world. You can have all the talent in the world, but if you can't be healthy, it doesn't matter. He's got an issue. He's got to be healthy.
Well, I agree with you there, but on the reverse, I'm with Sharif here saying I don't know that James Conner is the most talented guy from a pound-for-pound perspective, but you can make it work with a guy like James Conner if you have a good offense, and you have a good offensive line, and that's what the Steelers have. They throw a lot. They run a lot of spread principles, so you take a lot of those linebackers who should be stop the run, and you put them on the sideline. You put corners out there. You put safeties out there, and you put your running back in space to make stuff happen. You can make things happen if you run a good offense with a less than talented running back. Dallas isn't set up to do that, though. Dallas is set up to have Amari Cooper, a tight end or two, and then another receiver on the other side and a running back. And they're built to play pound the rock football. They don't have the talent on the offense, and they don't have the talent at coach and play caller to run that kind of offense right now.
I don't know. I can't wrap my head around having a less than average running back as your starter and being okay with that.
The Chiefs are going to do it this year.
He's not less than average.
You're telling me Damian Williams is better than 16 other starting running backs in the NFL?
Yeah, probably.
No, he's not.
Better than Lamar Miller.
That's one guy. Okay,
right,
give me 15 more. Give me 15 more.
Kenyon Drake.
2. I don't know that he's better than Kenyon Drake.
Actually, everyone on the Bills running
he's
back.
He's better than LaShawn McCoy?
Yeah, because LaShawn McCoy can't stay healthy.
That doesn't
Frank
make you better.
Gore's 80 years old.
Pound for pound, that doesn't make him better than LaShawn McCoy. And Frank Gore might have a better year if you put him in the same offense than Damian Williams would. If you put Frank Gore with the Chiefs, he might be better.
I guess we'll see, huh?
Again,
I'm not saying he's an elite. I'm not saying he's an elite player. I think he's a good player.
You're saying he's pretty good if you're saying he's top 16 in the league. But this is just...
You tell me
don't take this the wrong way. Don't take this the wrong way. But this is Drew falling in love with the Chiefs players again.
No,
yes, it is. This is the same Drew that told me Kareem Hunt was a top 5 running back last year, despite everything else. And I said, I don't know, man. That offense is pretty good. Maybe he's benefiting off of that. I still think Kareem Hunt's great. I still think he's a great player. But to say he's a top 5 running back, I was like, that might be a little high. A little high for me.
He was.
Okay.
I don't know how you could say he wasn't.
We're going to find out because he took a sports hernia surgery. That's how I know.
No, he kicked a girl like an idiot.
He can't be good if he's not on the field. He's not on the field
it's
right now,
Drew. He kicked a girl. He's an idiot.
Does that make him not a top 5
But when he was
back?
playing for the Chiefs, he was a top 5 running back. I don't know how you could say he wasn't.
He was a very talented guy in the right spot.
He won multiple games by him alone.
Really? Had nothing to do with those great offensive linemen or those spread principles that spread everybody out?
You're going to sit there and tell me every time he caught a pass for 50, or 75 yards, he caught literally the 2 yards from the line of scrimmage, and then ran 75 and got a touchdown. That wasn't him?
No, I'm going to say this because imagine that's Todd Gurley, and you're going to tell me Todd Gurley wouldn't have even more success in that offense? You're going to tell me Zeke Elliott wouldn't have more success? Le'Veon Bell wouldn't have more success? The list goes on. Dalvin Cook, I would even say, might have similar or more success.
Spencer Ware was in that.
Had a lot of success. Well, not this last year. I know everyone's going to remember Spencer Ware when he was old and beat up and not very good. But Spencer Ware had the same level of success in the Andy Reid offense.
Being great. But
he was a pretty good running back. He was a pretty good running back.
Quit falling in love with Chief players.
You maximize the talent you have. And before we move on, I know we're rambling on this, but before we move on, just to close it out, Drew, at running back, We can disagree, and that's okay.
Yeah.
Even coaches in the NFL disagree, right? Dallas is in the mindset that we need to have a great running back, and we can be a good team because of it. I think there are a lot of teams out there, like the Kansas City Chiefs, that say, look, we want to have a good player back there, but if it doesn't happen, we can get by throwing the ball a lot and having a great offensive line to block for him. You ready to talk about Daniel Jones?
Sure, man.
Do you disagree? No, we don't have time for that. You agree with me, of course. Go ahead. Comments.
All right, Scott says the Pats running backs are average at best. What happened when the dude went to Tennessee? He's bringing out Damian Lewis.
I know, he's bringing
Lewis
out the
again.
daggers and driving them right in my heart. But he's not wrong.
But,
We used Deion Lewis wrong, to be fair. We tried to make him an every down back. He's not an every down back. Again, it all comes down to who you have, the talent you have, and how you use it.
The scheme.
And that's my point. You can take a
you
less than
guys
valuable
are
guy.
a smash mouth kind of football team, and you bring in a little running back like Deion Lewis. You're like, hey, run up in the.
I don't make the decisions for my
the
team.
0 and 1
I scream
gaps.
about it all the time.
Go.
I scream about it all the time, okay? I do. I 100% get where you're coming from. But it's the exact point that I made, that if you have a bad scheme, you can weigh down a guy's talent. And I think that's what we've got here.
All right.
Or if you have a good scheme, the reverse of that is you can take a guy who's less talented and make him more talented. You
Let
get
me
more out of
clear
him than what he would normally
exactly
get.
what I'm trying to get here, because Shree says average running backs win Super Bowls.
This from the Ravens fan. Exactly.
No, listen.
I'm kidding. Ray Rice is pretty good.
This is not what I'm saying. I'm not saying you have to have a better running back to succeed in this league. It's all about scheme and the rest of the team around you. But if you're talking about a position that's the least important on the offensive side of the ball, it's a guard position. You're going to sit there and tell me that you would want elite guards and one of the worst running backs in the league, and you'd be excited about your offensive schemes? Heck no. Get one bad guard, get an average to better running back, and your team's that much better. This is what I'm getting at. I'm not sitting there saying you can't have a less than average running back and win games. But if you're talking about the least important position offensively, it is a guard position. More than likely a right guard with a right-handed quarterback. That's just what it is. You're talking about a position alone. I'm not sitting there saying you can't win without him. I'm not saying anything like that. I'm saying the position. When you were saying you can do it without an average or lower running back, yes, I agree with you. But that is not the position you were trying to hide talent. You want a guy who is going to touch the ball a majority of your offensive schemes to be talented. The guard does not ever touch the ball. You cannot accept. No team's ever going to be, hey, we got, the number 40th running back in the league with yards and yards per attempt. We're good with this. We're not going to draft another running back because we're going to roll with this guy.
They won't be, though. The guy won't be that bad because the offensive line is good. And the best example of that is Dallas.
True.
You're saying you can hide stuff.
Dude,
well, no,
Alfred Morris played behind the exact same offensive line that Zeke Elliott did. How did he do? Oh, that's right.
He looked pretty good in the preseason, and then he got no opportunities. He got no opportunities in Dallas, almost none.
I can't do this.
On top of that, look, Alfred Morris is not a great player, but he looked good in Washington, didn't he?
Yeah,
he looked really good in Washington.
He did.
And guess what he was running behind? A great offensive line.
I'd give
and
you that one.
an offense that was spread out and had receivers. Guess what happened in Dallas? You had a running back with Alfred Morris. When I say he didn't have opportunities, I mean everyone stacked the box because all Dallas was trying to do back then was run the ball. And when you're only trying to run the ball, and let me tell you, I have a lot of experience with this being a Titans fan. When that's all you try to do in today's NFL, people put 8 guys in the box and they take it away. Unless you have a transformative guy like Chris Johnson was coming in there where he's just so much faster, or you have a guy that's so much bigger that he's so hard to tackle, you don't succeed in that type of offense in today's NFL. You just don't. You need to be able to throw some. And Dallas was not doing that. So when you're saying Alfred Morris struggled behind a great offensive line, that is not because they had this great system and Alfred Morris just weighed them down. That is 100% not the case. They had a terrible system, and even though they had a good offensive line, 5 guys can't block 8. That's just the way it works. 5 guys cannot block 8, and that's exactly what happened. I'm sorry, I didn't mean to baptize you there. 5 guys can't block 8, and that's exactly what happened. When you get too one-dimensional, you get stopped. Daniel Jones, are you ready? Oh, God. Should Daniel Jones start, Drew? Should Daniel Jones start? We got a bunch of comments here. I want to talk about all of them, But eventually, we do need to move on. Ian is right. The Lions make the holes. That is 100% true. But you also need a running back who can get through them. So it's a balance. You can't have Trent Richardson, who's, even though there are holes there, running into the back of the lineman.
Yeah, Nathan said the only one that couldn't run behind Dallas's offensive line is Richardson because he's legally blind.
Exactly. So it's a give and take, right? You can't have the worst running back. And you're not wrong when you said that. But you can have a bad running back and be a good team. You can have a guy that's just okay and be a good team. What you can't have is a bad system and a weak offensive line and put even a good running back out there, you turn it into Jacksonville. Case closed. All right, moving forward. Daniel Jones. Let's talk about Daniel Jones.
I just had to move on. We'll never.
Sorry, I didn't mean to pound on the bar. I know we had a talk about this before the show and everything else. No pounding on the bar. We're talking about Daniel Jones. It's time to move on. Let's talk about whether he should start for the Giants.
No.
He shouldn't start for the Giants.
No, he should not.
134.5 QBR in the preseason. Didn't impress you. Stick with Eli?
No, he impressed me. He had a great preseason.
Didn't impress you enough, I should say.
No, it's not even that. He saw no schemes for his talent. He saw no blitz packages that are truly hidden from him. He saw no extreme offensive play calling that makes him have to change when the defensive scheme comes up and it's exactly what they want. This is all stuff you have to learn. And don't get me wrong, first-round quarterbacks can start week one and do perfectly fine. Why? Why would you do that to him? I think we talked about this last year with Kyler Murray. Give a couple weeks, let him watch some of his schemes, let him watch some of his game plan against his offense that he's about to run, because at some point in time, yes, the guy's going to start and play.
Right.
But why week one?
I said the same thing about Josh Rosen, and I got killed for it last year. Do not hang him out there to dry, even though I like where the Giants are at more.
I did not say start him week one.
Even though I like where the Giants are at more than the Cardinals were last year, there's nothing wrong with slow playing it. If you feel like he's ready and you feel like the offense is good enough to support him, and they might be, they're kind of like fringe for me. I'd like to see a couple more receiving options, but he's going to have Evan Ingram, right? He's going to have Saquon Barkley out there. It's going to be his good check down, his safety valve to get rid of it. I'd like to see some more talent at wide receiver before you throw him out there, or at the very least, you give him a couple games towards the end of the season and then try to bring some wide receiving talent out to help him a little bit. But right now, the offense, I think, is in good enough shape that I'd be okay with starting him week one. The question is, how much do they believe in Sterling Shepard? Can he be a number one wide receiver that's going to make enough of an impact? I say no. Obviously, they like him enough to keep him around. Obviously, maybe Golden Tate after the first 4 weeks. Maybe that is when I would try to start him. You get Golden Tate, you get Sterling Shepard, Evan Ingram, Saquon Barkley, and a much improved offensive line. That is the kind of position I want to start a rookie quarterback who needs to do some growing. Instead of last year where Arizona's like, man, we got no offensive line. We have 35-year-old Larry Fitzgerald. We have Christian Kirk, who's a rookie. We don't know if he's any good or not because, again, it's a rookie receiver in the NFL. Great ones can turn into nothing. Nothing's in college can turn into great ones. This is still a good spot for me. Even week one, I would be like, okay, maybe they like Sterling Shepard more than I do. Maybe they're going to run the ball a lot, and we're only see limited opportunities for him to throw. I'm going to say, yeah. I'm going to say give him the start. What's Eli going to do for you? I know there's this nostalgic factor of we want to give Eli that like ride off into the sunset season, but how well does that usually work for teams? I mean, we talk about it all the time. Sports is what have you done for me lately? And right now, Eli has not done much for this Giants team in a long time.
What's up, Devin, man? You should have stopped by. Chris says Daniel Jones will start week 4 when the Giants get scared after a 0-3 start.
I
think it's more realistic.
Let him go 0-3 and then roll with it.
I'm with Austin. The Giants are not competing this year. Let him sit and learn as long as possible. Set him up for success and don't destroy his confidence by just being thrown out to the wolves. Now, one thing I will disagree with that is you can only go so far in the season until it's time to just put him out there. At some point in time, you do have to throw him to the
Patrick
wolves.
Mahomes, Aaron Rodgers. We've seen guys have success with it. So again, is that just a small sample size where we had great quarterbacks that were in situations where they didn't need to play?
But you're talking about Brett Favre and Alex Smith, who are quarterbacks taking their teams to playoffs.
Right.
Versus you're talking about Eli Manning and
also teams ready to go to the playoffs.
And who was the Arizona quarterback before?
It was Carson Palmer, but he retired.
No.
And they had Sam Bradford.
Yeah, that's what it was.
So, again, I'm okay with starting him here. I think the offense is in good enough shape that it's okay to give him the reps. That's my point. When I made the point about Arizona last year, it was all about don't throw Rosen into a bad situation and then be surprised when he fails or try to hurt this guy's confidence when he fails. They had no offensive line. They had no weapons. David Johnson was coming back off a serious injury, so we weren't sure what kind of shape he was going to be in or if he's going to be the guy who's going to carry that or touch the ball as many times as we've seen him do in the past. I said he should have waited, but I think the Giants are in a better spot offensively than they are. He's not going to win games. More than likely, this defense is going to be so bad, the Giants are still going to win, 4 or 5 games, and then we're going to be talking about them back towards the top of the draft next year, regardless of how good he is. It's going to take a Deshaun Watson kind of first year, but for instead of 4 or 6 games, however long he made it before he got hurt, you're going to need to see that happen over the course of 16 if the Giants are going to make it, because this defense might be one of the worst in football. I'm okay with starting him. I'm okay with sitting him for the first couple weeks. But if the offensive line holds up and they're as good as we think they can be, he needs to play by week 4, or I should say week 5, when you get Golden Tate back.
Scott says, let him start. Just keep him from getting hit. He said, look at Peyton Manning had the worst rookie year in history and let him learn. Is that Ian throws out another great example. Ryan Leaf. I mean,
David Carr. The list goes on. RG3. Don't get your young quarterbacks beat up. I'm with you. I am with them 100%.
I don't think he starts the season. To answer the question at the very beginning, it's a very impressive preseason. His confidence should be through the roof, but you put him out there week 1, it will drop leaps and bounds downwards.
See, I think they have the offense that can succeed, even with like a young quarterback. Saquon's going to do most of the work. The offensive line should keep him cleaner. I'm with Scott. Just don't let him take the hits, and that's my point. They paid not Logan Mankins. Who is I always forget this dude's name. The left tackle from the Patriots.
Solder.
Nate Solder. They paid Nate Solder. They just traded for the guard from Cleveland, Kevin Zeitler. Will Hernandez looks good on that offensive line. They've got 3 or 4 guys that now are pretty competent. They might have a weak guy or two, but you can get away with that sort of. I think you're in a better spot in New York than you have been in a long time. I'd understand slow playing it too. Maybe you put Eli out there and you just test that offensive line and make sure everything's like good. And then after that, you got to put him in there. Eli is not going to win you another Super Bowl. This kid might. And you don't know whether he does or not, but there's one way to find out. You put him out there with an offense that's halfway decent, and you see what he can do. No, but here's my point. You put him out there, and you get to see what he has because the offense is good. Even if you're losing games, you're like, okay, well, we lost this one 24 to 38. If we cut that 38 down to 25, we can maybe compete for one of these games. That's what you need to find out. I think the Giants are in a good spot to start him if they want to. I think they're in a good spot to sit him for a couple weeks. I don't want to see him on the bench after week 8, though. Because Eli deserves his chance. Eli deserves to ride off in the sunset. No, there's none of that. It's all about what can you do for me right now. That's how you win in the NFL. I love Eli Manning. I think it's great that he beat the Patriots twice. I mean, somebody had to. But he's not doing it again. You need to go see what you have in the young kid.
Hey, they could maybe do it again.
No. Yeah, with his defense, right? They'll just outshoot him like the Eagles did. No, that's not going to happen.
Just a couple more comments. Scott says, getting a taste of defeat is a good thing. He played for Duke. Trust me, he tasted defeat. He also thinks that Eli will just give it up to him because Eli is smart like that. No NFL player has any kind of want to give a guy underneath him his job and say, here you go, buddy.
Yep.
Take the reins.
100%. Look at Joe Flacco where he's like, I'm not telling Drew Lock anything. I'm not teaching him. I'm not here to teach him. Nobody wants to give up their last chance. Remember, this is what these guys have done their entire lives. Even Eli Manning. Everyone questions his work ethic and his want to do it. This is still like the only thing most of these guys have ever known. No one is going to willingly hand the keys over to the offense. I think Eli's going to come out. Maybe we see a little bit better Eli than we've seen in years past. But I think even like a little bit better Eli still is probably like what, quarterback 25, 23 in the NFL. Not good enough.
Yeah,
definitely not good enough. So I'm with Ian saying that give Eli 3 weeks so he can pretend to have an injury and go out for a while. I think 3 weeks would be a reasonable expectation. I'd say 4. Get your best receiver in Golden Tate back. You got Sterling Shepard as the number 2, and then you got Evan Ingram. Hopefully everyone's healthy by this point, and maybe then we have a little bit of a reason to run Saquon a little bit. Because right now, if you're playing with Eli Manning and you're not going anywhere because the defense isn't stopping anybody, you're putting wear on the tires that doesn't need to be there.
Right.
All right. Let's hit a couple other pieces of news. I was kind of shocked to find everyone on the same page a little bit here, where we're all pretty close to saying Daniel Jones should start sooner than later, right?
Yep.
Okay. That's good to know, though. I'm glad everyone kind of agrees with us a little bit. Oh, wait, no, I missed it. Nathan says, let him sit a year like Carson Palmer. It's worked well in the past. Is sitting a year, is it as beneficial as we've seen it be? Because Patrick Mahomes essentially sat a year. I know he played one game against Denver, but he sat essentially a year. Aaron Rodgers sat, a long time behind Brett Favre. We've seen guys have massive success. Is it because they're getting extra coaching? Is it because of that? Or do you think it's just these were super talented guys going into super talented teams and then surprised they had success afterward? Because I think that might be more likely than sitting for a year helps.
I think it's all based on the player.
Yeah.
You've seen it succeed both ways. Some guys learn from getting defeated, a.k.a. Peyton Manning, like was listed in the comments. And then you've seen players succeed when they get time to learn behind an expert. But, confidence is huge. And I know we brought it up multiple times in comments. If Daniel Jones feels like he should play week 1 and doesn't play till week 10, that's a confidence killer. It really is. Not that he shouldn't be able to rebound and play late in the season and do fine, but when a guy believes he should start and the team around him does not believe he should, that destroys guys' confidence.
I think it depends on who you are and where you are. Because, again, Eli being the starter there
my point
could
to this
be the opposite.
Is it needs to be the coaches that are in there in this locker room every day analyzing this situation. They all realize what they have in Eli. And I know Sharif said earlier the higher-up brass of the Giants organization doesn't want to bench Eli, but they've already benched him. They benched him for Geno Smith. So at some point in time, they're going to have to look in their own little brain or whatever you want to call it and say, it is time to start Daniel Jones.
I think you can get away with it if you have a veteran like Eli, because you can sit the kid down and say, look, we know you're talented. We know you're going to be the face of this franchise, but Eli's been here a long time. He's had a lot of success. You're going to eventually need to step up over him. And I think that could be a motivator. So even if he sits to like week 10, 11, 12, a team like this is fine. Now, if you have a team like the Cardinals and you're seeing Sam Bradford be terrible out there and hurt, and then, Glennon out there with him, and you're still saying Josh Rosen, you're not there yet, right? You're still our third-string quarterback. That could be the confidence killer. So I think that probably comes into play more when you're not talking about a team like the Giants that have a two-time Super Bowl winning quarterback already there. That can be explained away for the team. I don't know. It depends on the kind of guy you are.
I mean,
it does. I've met this guy. I've shaken his hand. All right. I don't think no, I'm kidding.
He's your guy. I don't know, man. I've heard it. I've heard them talk about it. I've heard a lot of these quarterbacks say, hey, I've started from high school, all my college career. I get here, and they don't think I'm good enough to start. It does affect their confidence.
What are they going to say when they start to lose? And we've talked about this with Jameis Winston. A lot of times that can be the wrong mentality.
I'm talking about a confidence. That's all
I think you're right, but I think that can be the wrong mentality, and you have to break them of that early. You don't want them going in there saying, oh, it doesn't matter whether I'm the guy who wins the job or not. You want them to say, okay, the coach, for the first time I faced adversity, and the coach says, I'm not there yet. Am I going to improve every day and prove to him that I am the best option? Or am I going to kind of throw the temper tantrum and say, oh, my confidence is broken and I should be starting and this is going to hurt my ego? It depends on the guy. 100% depends on the guy. And like I said, for the brief 18 seconds I talked to him, I don't know that he's the guy that throws the temper tantrum. He seemed pretty level-headed, but I got a full 18, 19 seconds with him. So I'm pretty sure I got a lock on this.
You still cherish that moment?
I think you're 100% right. It comes down to the coach, and it comes down to what does the coach feel about the situation and how much is this going to impact the kid to either sit or start. The Giants have the good enough situation. If they didn't, I'd say sit him. But they have the good enough situation where you can play an inexperienced guy. Also, Zeke says throw him out there and take advantage of the low pay for the first 4 years. If they were anywhere near a Super Bowl, anywhere near competing, I'd say you're 100% right. Why not, right? Let's see what he's got. But with that defense, they're going to be, even if you have like one of the best offenses, you would need Kansas City's type of offense right now to win games with this Giants team. And they're not there. They've got some good players. They've got a good running back. They're going to play a little bit of ball control. They might even win 5 or 6 games because of it. They're not in a situation where you're worried about like maximizing the money kind of standpoint here in the first year, probably 2 for this Giants team.
it'll be a little while.
Absolutely. All right. Is there anything else you want to talk about? Because we still have some other stuff. We haven't talked Melvin Gordon at all. We talked Zeke. I want to talk about how nobody's talking about him not being under contract. Because the San Diego Chargers have been wise enough to not say anything.
We can. I'm fine.
We can talk about that. We can talk about Graham Gano going to IR. That's kind of an issue for the Panthers, a team that can't seem to get away from injuries, and one that we picked to not be very good. When you run the ball and you play defense, you tend to kick a lot of field goals.
Correct.
And missing a 2017 Pro Bowler like Graham Gano is going to be an issue. I know everyone's going to say they have a rookie that kicked a 59-yarder in a preseason game. Let me see it for 16 games, and then we'll say they're fine.
Yeah. Losing your starting kicker is never a good thing, ever. I don't care what team you are. It's not good. I don't care if you throw the ball all over the place. I mean, look at the Rams when they lost Zerline. I mean, they struggled when it came to field goals. Especially a team like you're saying that plays good defense, runs the ball. Gano is important to this team. It's a huge loss. As far as Melvin Gordon goes, and no news, it's not good news for Melvin Gordon, but
It's not good news for the Chargers either.
But I think it's the right way to deal with it that the Chargers are dealing with.
Absolutely. I think you have to play the hard-nosed. We're not going to give in to any kind of outlandish demands of I'm not going to play until I get my new contract, because how many guys could come out and say, I want a new contract because I feel like I'm getting underpaid? A good GM knows his job is to get good value out of his players. If they're going to throw their hands up and say, well, I'm just not going to play, you can't get that good value out of anybody. That's how you win Super Bowls. That's how the Patriots have done for years, right? They take guys like Josh Gordon and people that everyone's ready to give up on. They don't pay them any money, and then they wind up having a lot of success because they've got a good player for cheap. And they get a lot of good players for cheap.
Right.
I think the Chargers have been very conservative by not paying Melvin Gordon. Now, Nathan's saying pay him. If you could come to some kind of deal where you're going to go give him that $11, $12, $13 million contract, and it gets this out of the way, especially with them thinking they're a Super Bowl team, I could understand giving him the contract. I really could. This is, again, one of the hardest positions to be in, because if you don't pay him and he sits out and Austin Eckler isn't good enough and it costs you what might be your chance at a Super Bowl, how often do these Super Bowl windows come around, like realistically come around? And we know the Chargers are a good team right now, or we think the Chargers are a good team right now.
And they're in the playoffs.
And it stinks that they have the Chiefs that are just as good as them in division, but
Right.
we know this team is a very good team. If you could lose out on that by not signing Melvin Gordon, I would understand if they just said, you know what, we don't care. I don't care if this sinks the franchise 3 or 4 years down the road.
Well, they played a lot of games last year without him because he was injured. Yeah,
so I think the Chargers have been wise to be not only hesitant to pay him, but also quiet about it too. Because what you don't want to be is in Jerry Jones' position where you're kind of antagonizing Zeke a little bit, saying he's not that important to us. Who needs the NFL's top rusher to win a Super Bowl, yada, 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 because that only keeps him away from the negotiating table. I think they're smart to not say anything, but maybe they're exploring their options behind the scenes. Maybe they're talking trade. Maybe they're talking, hey, Melvin.
Chris is saying Melvin Gordon will be traded and the Chargers won't give him a new contract.
Are they wrong for that? Is that a bad move? Do you get the value out of the guy that doesn't want to play for the right price? That's what this is about. And nobody talks about this, but that's how you win football games. You get the most talent you can for the least amount of money.
They succeeded without him.
Yeah. I agree. For years, they've done it without a running back. And we had one good year out of Melvin Gordon, who took a lot of carries in college. How long do you think his body can hold up?
Yeah, I don't know.
It's a situation
it's already not holding up.
Exactly. And if you're going to go give him a 3 or a 4 or a 5-year contract like he wants for top-tier money, you're going to need this guy to go out and perform for your team, because it's going to cost you on either the defensive side of the ball. You're not going to be able to pay the defender that you want to pay. You're not going to be able to pay the offensive lineman that you need, especially for the Chargers, who have a bad offensive line. There's always only so much to go around. And if you're going to pay Melvin Gordon, somebody else is not going to be able to get the money. So I give them credit for not going out and just throwing the money at him, even though that would be the easy thing to do, because they're going to say, we could win a Super Bowl this year if we do.
I don't know.
In their mind, that's what you've got to say, right? When you look at this team, you've got to say, we could win a Super Bowl this year for you. We both have our doubts. I'm the one who called it fool's gold all last year, and everyone said I'm crazy.
I don't know if a Super Bowl is in their future, even though that's exactly how that team's built and should be thinking. I just don't think so.
Ian also says we use the word value and Chargers and smart all in the same sentence. Everyone in San Diego is laughing. I know, but everyone can turn over a new leaf. A blind squirrel's right 3 times a day, right? That's not the right saying. But I'm with you, Ian. The Chargers historically have not been a tremendously well-run franchise, but this is the right move. I got to call them like I see them, man. not giving in to the pressure of, hey, we're good, and this guy says he wants more money, so let's just give it to him, even regardless of what it does to our team down the line. That takes nuts. It does. You have to have like some kind of intestinal fortitude to not just cave in and say, well, maybe we win a Super Bowl if we pay him right now.
No, Nathan, we're definitely not saying that they can make a Super Bowl with Austin Eckler and Jackson as a running back. We're just saying that this team should have, after ending at season 12-4, they should have the want or the passion to think they're a Super Bowl team. We both have their doubts.
Yeah, absolutely. Even all last year, even with Melvin Gordon, I was saying I don't think the Chargers are good enough. I think they're a team that, if you look at the way they played teams like the Bengals with Jeff Driscoll, and they let these guys hang
Gordon
around.
Wasn't even there during the late part of the season.
The San Francisco 49ers. I mean, you're right. But even when they had him, when they're playing teams like that and they're just barely like hanging on, the Houston Texans were kind of the same way to me. They had no killer instinct to come out and just like put 30 points on the board. And see, I can forgive the Chiefs, right? They put up like 34, 35 points and they're like, we'll just coast because we know we got it. And if you have to turn it back on, we can. That's understandable. That's like a normal human mindset. When you're the Chargers and Jeff Driscoll is like going pound for pound with you and you're telling me you're a Super Bowl team, you need to do better. I didn't see the killer instinct out of them. I really didn't. I don't think the Chargers are a playoff team or a Super Bowl team even this year. I think they're good. I don't think they're great though.
Chris says they had an easy schedule last year, not so much this year. That Chargers team does not repeat last year's magic with or without Gordon.
I'm with you. Again, I think they got a couple lucky breaks. I think they survived some teams that, if they had been in better positions, might have beat them. If Andy Dalton plays, if Jimmy Garoppolo plays in those couple games, and those are the two that come to mind, I think the Chargers wind up with another couple losses. Instead, we were talking about them like barely getting in 17, right? They had their opportunity to beat the Chiefs and get the first round bye and get to play every game at home. Yep. And what happened? They came up short, had to play in a wild card game, and had to play a tough team like the Ravens, get bullied, while the teams like the Chiefs and the Patriots had their feet up and got an extra week's worth of rest. So I just think they're a step off.
Let's go on to the next subject.
What is the next subject? We can talk about the Patriots trades, but we kind of already have. Beyond that, we were going to talk Tyler Skaggs. Unfortunately, it came out that Tyler Skaggs, Angels pitcher who died recently, I think he was 26 years old, came out it was from an overdose on pain-killing medication. So this is kind of what I thought when I heard it. Usually 26-year-olds, it's pretty rare to have some kind of occurrence that's not something along these lines. It's sad to hear. I know people are saying it's accidental. We can talk about the pain in sports if you want to talk about it, pain management, and what should these leagues do. That's a huge, long topic. Because pain management, I think, even baseball, when you're talking about pitching that number of games every year and what that does to your arms and your back and everything else, we could talk pain management all day long. We did want to say that it is sad to hear that was the cause of his death, that it wasn't, any kind of natural cause or anything like that.
Not that we want him to die, but we prefer it be a natural cause.
Again, maybe I didn't phrase that the best, but it's a sad story, but right. It's one of those things that maybe sports leagues need to talk about a little bit. Because if it's happening in baseball, imagine what guys, we're seeing it, right? Andrew Luck retiring, saying I can't do it anymore. Gronk retiring young, saying I don't want to do this. Even going back to Calvin Johnson, the beating these guys are taking, do these leagues need to do more for pain management? And I'm not like the guy that's like, oh yeah, let them all smoke weed because that solves everyone's problems, but is that a conversation that needs to be had with this story? I mean, it's not a performance-enhancing drug, right? You're not, better because of it.
Right. Zeke, we are going to be doing predictions every week. We'll be doing that on Fridays during the NFL schedule. I just want to get that across real quick. But
and we're with Nathan, man. Absolutely sad story. If I'm the Major League Baseball, and I didn't mean to cut you off, we're going to talk about our schedule here coming up because it's changing next week with the season starting. But going into this, Nathan is saying let all professional sports players use cannabis. I would say at the very least, if I'm the MLB, if I am the NFL, if I'm the NBA, I'm looking into all the CBD oil, I'm looking into all the pain management stuff that I can right now, because especially as we grow as a culture and we grow as almost a species and we're getting more efficient at communicating, we're going to see more and more of these stories popping up where guys are like, man, I just couldn't do it. Or in the past, we might not have talked about it. I think this is something that if I'm one of these commissioners, at the very least, we're paying to research it, right? I'm putting some of the NFL's billions of dollars and the NBA's billions of dollars and MLB's baseball's like tens of dollars. No, I'm kidding. They make bank too. I'm putting a lot of our money into researching how do I make things as comfortable for my players in an ethical way as I can. And so far, we've kind of seen teams and leagues, I should say, be more obstinate about it because they have this old world mentality. And again, like I said, I'm not the guy that says let them all smoke weed. But I'm saying you should at the very least consider the possibility that there are other options out there, so that we don't have more Tyler Skaggs in the future.
Right.
Your thoughts before we get out of here and before we talk about the schedule?
Oh man, I've talked about it too many times. It's unfortunate. That's all it is. It's unfortunate, and as much as we don't want any death, we wish the news would have came out to be natural causes and not an overdose.
Absolutely, 100%. All right. Before we get out of here, let me tell you, next week, our schedule is changing a little bit, and it will be this way for the entire NFL season. We are going to be on Tuesday to talk about everything going on with the primetime games, as well as everything going on in the world of sports. Wednesday is our college football special. We're going to be going over the week in the past, the week in the future. Hannah should be here Wednesdays to talk with us. At the very least, she will be on our phone
on the
versus
show.
Yeah, exactly. She'll be involved with the show for it. She's going to be one of our college sports aficionados on the show. You like that word? Fridays, we are going to be doing our NFL previews. Going into the week, we're going to be talking about everything you need to know, both in fantasy-wise as well as our predictions for the actual game of football. And then Sundays, in between Sunday Night Football and the actual the late games.
Yeah.
Right. We are going to be live to talk about all the action that happened in the week and preview the Sunday night game with you. We can't wait for it, guys. This is my favorite time of year. I know Drew loves it. Those live shows coming off of live reaction football, some of our best. Some of the most fun.
They are.
It's great to hear everybody talk about, oh man, even if it's like my team got killed this week, they look bad. Come in, talk about everything that they can do to fix it. We can't wait to see you guys there. It's going to be a lot of fun.
Yeah, no doubt about it. I'm excited for the change because that means football is here, and I'm stoked. But guys, thank you again for joining us tonight with all the comments, likes, and shares. It means the world to us. But I do want to give a special thanks out there to Nathan, Ian, Frank, Chris, Sharif, Scott, Edward, Austin, Ivy, Chris, Jeremy, Thomas, Devin, Zeke. You guys are all awesome. Thank you so much.
Guys, it's going to be great. The NFL's right around the corner. I can almost taste it. We got one more Sunday to wait, but at least we got college to tide us over a little bit. So for Sports Around the Bar, I am Jake, your bartender. This is Drew. We will be back on Tuesday next week. I'm going to have a hard time remembering myself to talk about everything going on in the world of sports and to prep you for everything going on in the NFL. We can't wait to talk sports with you. Hope to see you then, guys. It was great. Zeka, you're awesome, man. Ian, you're awesome, too. I'm glad you didn't even notice Hannah wasn't here. It's been fun, guys.
And thank you, Nathan, for the wonderful comment.
Absolutely, guys. We will see you soon.